Hey everybody, welcome back to Let's Talk. My name is John, and today here on the channel we're going to be talking about 1984's Purple Rain and its brand new Warner Brothers 4K Blu-ray that just came out. But before we get into that 4K Blu-ray review, I always like to give a quick film review, and today is no different. So before we get into that 4K Blu-ray review, I'm going to review the movie right now. So if you want to know nothing about this film, you can skip ahead to the 4K Blu-ray review right now. So Purple Rain was released in 1984, so it's celebrating 40 years, if you can believe that one. And Purple Rain, it is not one of the greatest films of all time, but what it is one of the greatest rock films of all time. Because really, when you're watching this movie, you're there for the music. Purple Rain is one of the greatest albums of all time. It's actually my second favorite album of all time, so I absolutely love Purple Rain. But the movie itself, when we're in there for the music, you know, we're watching Prince and the Revolution perform, or Moore's Day in the Time.
Greatest band in the world! Moore's Day in the Time!
That's what you're there for. That's what really, like, captivates you. But there is a through line through this movie of a story, and that story, it's just very, very, very cheesy. The acting in this film is not that well done, but that's not what you're there for. Yes, there is a plot, and that plot revolves around Prince. He has this band. He always plays at the First Avenue Club, despite the fact that he's Prince. You know, in the movie, though, he's called the Kid. He has a hard home life. His father is always abusing him and his mother, and it's very cliche, you know. He's really more upset about the fact that he wasn't a successful musician. You know, it's very similar to the movie Fences, where Denzel Washington character is upset that he couldn't make it in the major leagues because, you know, he had to play in the Negro Leagues, and he doesn't want to see his son become a successful athlete because that's not what he could become. So, you know, Prince's dad, he feels very distressed about this. He's very upset, and, you know, he's taking it out on his wife and kid, but just in a very over-the-top 1980s manner where it's a little bit unbelievable. And like I said, the acting in this movie is not great. Apollonia, who plays Apollonia in this movie, you know, she was really an unknown coming into this film, but she actually does a pretty damn good job acting. Prince does a pretty good job acting as well, but for the most part, the acting is nothing to write home about, and neither is the plot and story to this movie, but what you're there for is the music, and the music has definitely stood the test of time. Purple Rain is still fantastic. Any time that Prince is performing or they're playing any song from Purple Rain, I mean, you're locked in and you feel it. And I absolutely love Purple Rain, so I feel it throughout the entire film. So I have no problem watching this movie, but you're definitely not there for the plot. So if you're somebody who's never seen Purple Rain and you go into this hoping for a well-executed story, yeah, this is not that kind of movie. If you want to watch a movie like that has a lot of great rock music in it, and then also has a good plot and story, watch the movie Streets of Fire, because that also came out, I believe, in 1984, right around that. Nah, I don't think it was 1984, but either way, it came out in the 1980s. Has a very similar tone to this movie, but it also has a much better, well-told story. That one's directed by Walter Hill, whereas this movie is directed by Albert Mangoli. And really, Prince kind of forced his way into making this movie when he signed a deal with Warner Brothers or with his management team. You know, he's like, I want to make a movie and I want to be the star of it. You know, they even tried to, now this is just a rumor, they even tried to replace Prince or tried to convince Prince, like, hey, why don't we let John Travolta do this role, which makes no sense. And everybody in this movie, they took like acting classes and everything like that. But of course, you know, these guys, they're mostly musicians, so you don't expect the most from them. But Prince wanted to get this movie made, and you got to commend him for that. Prince is one of the most talented individuals of all time. This is the reason why I love Prince, is because of how talented he is. From a musician standpoint, this guy knows how to play pretty much every instrument. His first album, he plays every single instrument on that album. Then, you know, he's able to piggyback that into the album 1999, and then the success of that, he's able to make Purple Rain, and arguably Purple Rain is probably the peak of Prince's powers. You know, I still say that this is his best album, despite the fact that Prince would continue to make great album after great album. But this is really the peak of his success, and the movie itself looks and sounds amazing. We'll get more into that until the 4K Blu-ray review, but, you know, if you love the 1980s and you love 1980s cheese, you are absolutely gonna love Purple Rain. Just don't go into this movie expecting to get your socks knocked off with a great masterpiece, because it's not that. This is the definition of a mixed bag. You're there for the music, you're not there for the plot, and if you are into Prince and you are into Purple Rain, you owe it to yourself to check out this movie, and maybe you want to check it out on this 4K Blu-ray that we're going to talk about right now. So here it is, Purple Rain on 4K Blu-ray, courtesy of Warner Brothers. And you know, this is their standard edition. I believe in the UK they actually got a steelbook, but over here in the United States we got this one right here. Really nice slipcover on it. I absolutely appreciate that. Also get the nice 40th anniversary logo in the corner, so that's always really appreciated. Then when you come inside, see right here, same artwork underneath. Now, this is going to disappoint some people, but this is also not unexpected. Warner Brothers has been giving us one disc sets pretty damn recently, and this is no different. We get one 4K Blu-ray disc that's going to feature all of your extras on there, and the film itself. There is no pack-in Blu-ray, so all you have to do is watch this movie on 4K Blu-ray. If you were one of those people hoping to get a downscaled version of this film on 1080p Blu-ray, unfortunately, that's not what we got here. And then, you know, of course, the other disappointing thing is the extras. Now, this movie has never really had any extras, so that's not too surprising. I would have liked them to go out of their way, you know, talk to some more people in the movie, maybe get some interviews, but no, they didn't get that. All you get on here are music videos, trailers, and then there's also a kind of a mini featurette about the First Avenue Club, the real First Avenue Club, that's also featured in this movie that they actually had to rent out for this film because, you know, this movie was filmed in Minneapolis, and Prince is one of the most famous, if not the most famous person from Minnesota, and he clearly loves it. So that's one thing about this movie, is if you're somebody who's from Minnesota and you want to see an homage to some of the big cities and sites in Minnesota, then this is definitely the movie for you, because Prince clearly loves it as well, and the First Avenue Club meant a lot to him, so that featurette is pretty nice. But again, I would have liked more about Prince, Purple Rain, The Revolution, maybe Morris Day and the Time, because one thing about Morris Day and the Time is I'll always just think of Jay and Silent Bob, who always said that the Time is the greatest band of all time, so, you know, I'll always think about that when I see Morris Day and the Time. But Morris Day and the Time, they are a great band as well, discovered by Prince. So to dive into that Minneapolis music scene, that is a nice featurette, but that is not enough for me when it comes to this. And, you know, again, having that really be the only featurette is very disappointing. But even though the extras aren't great, that's not what people are picking up this movie for. They're really picking it up for the visuals and the audio. The visuals, man, we get HDR10 because it's a Warner Brothers release. They only go out of their way for certain films like Dune Part 2 to give us Dolby Vision. For the most part, when Warner Brothers releases a film on 4K Blu-ray, it's gonna have HDR10 on it, and this one has HDR10 on it. And this movie was never the best looking film. A lot of people always said that it was, you know, very grainy, it looked kind of dirty and faded. So when this movie came to 4K Blu-ray, I wasn't expecting it to be this visually stunning as it is. It is gorgeous looking. You know, we maintained some of that film grain. Some of it was cleaned up. You know, some people, especially the grain lovers, might not love it that much, but, you know, they definitely cleaned it up and they made the colors pop. I mean, we're talking about really bright neon colors from the 1980s, purples and pinks. You know, the smoke itself, that's one thing about Prince and his stage shows. Plenty of fog and smoke. You're gonna love all that, but everything is clear. We hit those deep blacks. I mean, this is stunning visually. I didn't expect this movie to look as good as it does. It definitely doesn't look like how it's ever looked before. That's one thing that might upset some people, but for me personally, I think this is the kind of movie you want to clean up and make it look as good as possible, because for the most part, it's a concert film. You're not really there for the amazing filmmaking prowess that this movie would have in it. No, that's not what you're there for. You're really there to watch Prince perform, and if you can see that in beautiful 4K, I promise you, you will not be disappointed with this, because they really made this movie look better than it has ever looked, and it's not even close. These visuals are definitely stunning, but the thing that stood out most, and this is what you really wanted to stand out, is that brand new DTS HD Master Audio 5.1. You know, we always complain about them not giving us new audio. This is the kind of film that deserves new audio, and man, they hit a grand slam with this one. This might be the best DTS HD Master Audio 5.1 I've ever heard. Now, given what they have to do with this movie is, you know, they have to mix it so that Prince sounds great, that the album Purple Rain sounds great. So as long as they nailed that, this was gonna sound incredible, and they absolutely did. Now, there is one issue I have with this DTS HD Master Audio, and that's actually the dialogue. So sometimes the dialogue will be mixed way too low, and it will kind of sound like a little shaky, not that great. Like maybe the mic placement wasn't the best on set, and, you know, they can't really clean it up too much in post or clean it up too much with this brand new 4K Blu-ray, because it was pretty weird that at certain points the audio for the dialogue would be a little bit too low, to the point where I would have to turn it up. Now, this is a minor complaint because, again, like I'm saying, this movie is mostly about the music, and as long as that comes in crisp and clear, it's making great use of your speakers so that, you know, it's mixed very well, and which it is. It's just a little bit disappointing that the dialogue doesn't come in as crisp and clear as everything else on this track, and I'm a little curious as to why, because if they were able to clean up the music that well, why couldn't they clean up the regular old-fashioned dialogue that well? Maybe they just felt like it's not as important as everything else in this movie, movie, which I do agree with, but still, if you're going to put out this audio track like this, it would have been nice to see the dialogue just get a little bit more attention to detail, because I don't like to turn up my volume or turn it back down when the music starts hitting, and then I have neighbors who are going to hear it and they're going to get upset because it's like midnight, and given there's some space between my property, but still, I don't need these people waking up and being like, were you playing Computer Blue last night? Be like, well, I was watching Purple Rain. I don't know what to tell you. Mainly because, like, all of a sudden they'll be talking and then we'll jump into a song and then, you know, my ears will explode. So that's always a little bit disappointing when they do that. But again, minor complaint, because that's not really what you're here for when you're watching Purple Rain on 4K Blu-ray. And overall, I thought this was actually a phenomenal 4K Blu-ray. Not a flawless 4K Blu-ray. We still got the classic Warner Brothers laziness here with giving us limited extras, one disc, no packing Blu-ray. Yes, there is a digital code. And I'll admit, they definitely charge pretty fairly for what they give you. You know, not the greatest thing, but if you're not a big fan of Purple Rain and you just wanted to pick this one up on 4K Blu-ray and give it another shot, definitely wait for a sale. But if you're like me and you love Purple Rain and you just could not wait to watch this on 4K Blu-ray, then you know what? I definitely can recommend you grab this one at full price, because I don't think you'll be that disappointed, other than the extras, which of course are disappointing. But if you're like me and you had already braced yourself for that, you won't be as let down. But overall, this is definitely a good release from Warner Brothers, and I would give it a pretty damn solid 8 out of 10. But let me know, what do you guys think of Purple Rain? Is it one of your favorite movies from the 1980s? Do you think it's just an absolute cheese fest and you can't rewatch this one? Let me know in the comments section below. And while you're down there, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share this video, turn notifications on, get out in those streets and tell your friends about us. Or you can even become a channel member. We have a Friends of the Channel tier. We have a Producers tier where you're going to find John Doe Juggalo, Jason Martin, and Mr. Smelly Potato. And we also have a Directors tier where you're going to find Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews. You can check out all the perks for these memberships in the comments section below. Don't forget to subscribe to John Doe Juggalo and Frank from Frank's Media Reviews YouTube channels. They absolutely deserve it. But if you got no money, guys, to throw our way, we don't mind at all. All we really hope is that you enjoyed this video. And if you did, make sure you tell your friends about us. And then we'll be seeing you around.